care am ajuns atunci. Și pot să vă mărturisesc acum, cu 2 zile înainte de predică o țineam în fiecare miercuri din săptămână.
Și ne-am întors încet. A fost foarte dureroasă întoarcerea noastră, n-a fost
Between my first period of imprisonment and the second period, there was no difference. The torture, the brutality was the same. For instance, in 1980, I was very sick in the hospital prison Jilava.
Prison that you just saw is Jilava, seven levels underground, and very few escaped that prison alive. The bulk majority of the people who went in there died actually nameless. The folks in Ayud, the prison from Ayud, you're going to see a couple of pictures too. But they would just throw their bones to the, to the dogs. It's too unhuman to actually, even describe. So Jilava, that was the second term. You saw solitary prison. There was absolutely nothing. And what Father told me is he actually got to a point where he thought that he was losing his mind, a breaking point. And what God sent to save him was actually a cockroach. And he started talking with a cockroach. And he lost completely notion of the years, the days, and the beatings were daily. And that was one of the visions that he had. There was he used to celebrate liturgy with crumbs of bread, 2 portions, crumbs of bread twice a week. That's it. That was the food. Yeah, he was like a sack of bones. And I have a couple of books in here. Those are all books. The Monastery of Diaconist is doing a terrific job. I sent to them, everything that I had from here. I keep we keep sending it to them. But some of the icons, of the, the prisons and what happened in there. There are some pictures in here. I still cannot get through the whole book. It is really too gross. One of them is actually Father Gheorghe is in here too, depicted as an icon. That's how they are telling the stories of what happened. So feel free to take a look too. Most of what you see here is out of press. So I keep those as treasures. One day we're going to have a little museum, right, to display that. So let me get into the, into the presentation in here just to steer the discussions. I like when people participate. If you do have a question, please let me know. So feel free to interrupt me. Let's make this a dialogue. The whole concept in here, I would like for you to get to know Father Gheorghe like I knew him. He was a people person. And I was actually even telling Father earlier what he told me right before he passed away, right? It's like, Maria, what I'm going to miss the most is when you organized things and we got together in the basement. Can you believe, how can you think that? I said, Father, come on, do those. But he was a people person. He wanted to be where people were, like a magnet for the youth, this energetic person. And I hope that you're going to get to know him because we speak about people who have passed away like if they were gone. No, they just changed their address, right? It's just a 2-hour permanent address. So I hope that he gets to touch your heart like he did mine, and thousands of people all over the world, that are in Australia and in France. They contact me from all over the world. So very good. So without further delay, let's get to the presentation in here. Okay, so you saw even in that clip, I think it was captured very well. Panahidas captured it very well. The journey that went, from man, that was his first term in prison when he was going to med school, to create that generational gap. Once again, they picked people from, especially the youth, right? That they want to sort of create a new generation. That's how, the indoctrination, that's how they call the propaganda. And then when he went to prison for the first time, he met many people. Actually, one of them passed away, Valerio Givenki. You probably are going to hear about him. If I'm not mistaken, Valerio was already canonized. One of the books in here is The Saints from Prison. So these very, very special people. And when we say confessors and saints, if you look at what really makes the process of canonization, and I became actually very familiar with the process when I was putting the package together. You don't even need miracles, even though there are miracles that we can account for, but it's really the choices and our perseverance in our struggles, right? The choices that we make in face of difficulty. There are saints that were canonized just by making prosper obediently, without complaining. And I'm going to refrain from saying that because there is a process that, people way more illumined. God knows that I'm the last person that should be here talking about, anything of, holy people like this. But anyhow, it is important to know, because even in our lives, what I've learned, by studying a little bit of theology too, not too many people know the meaning of the word icon, right? For icons in the Greek. It's actually mirror. We were all created to be saints. It's a very profound meaning. When you were looking into an icon, you were supposed to be looking at, is my life reflecting what I'm seeing here? Am I living? Am I making choices that would make me an icon one day? So it's, that to me is a very, very striking concept as well. And of course, he decided to become a priest during his first term in prison to dedicate his life to God. And from the priest, really in delivering his 7 sermons, and I will give you the link, the 7 sermons, my project last year, they are in ancient faith. I got Father David Subo to be the voice. And you should please do take the time to listen. They are extremely powerful, very, very relevant to what we are living today as well. So I'll give you that as well. And that is the journey that we're gonna sort of walk a little bit. So let's look into a chronological summary here. He was the youngest of 11 children. 11 children. And what really sparkled, his interest in the faith. Guess what, mothers? His mother. His mother was a very, very pious Orthodox, and she was praying all the time. And that was the inspiration of his life. And even when he was, I'll let you read in here. He was from the Delta, the Danube Delta region, right? And you're gonna see here the prison that we saw in the beginning. Like I mentioned earlier, Pitest, Ayud, and the one that we saw earlier was Jilava, underground, right? And the political asylum, like I mentioned earlier. How did President Reagan even come to know about him? At that time, the government was actually, pretty active, looking to prosecuted, people that were prosecuted for their religion, all in alignment with our Constitution, right? All men are born free, right? And when right before they took Father George to prison, somebody managed to smuggle his sermons. One of the young people that were jumping over the wall outside of Romania. And those sermons were translated in 7 different languages. And the word got in here. And at the time, even Father Victor from St. John was working for the Voice of America. And he was really, impressed by what he heard. And he was also leading at the time, him and Marilyn and a couple of folks, that are parishioners, still in the area. And what they did is he was leading it was a movement for the persecuted Christians around the world. So they put Father George's name in that list. And there were congressional hearings, and a lot of what was happening, and somewhat Father Gheorghe made to the top of the list. That's how Vice President Reagan also went to Romania, Vice President Bush then, to negotiate for his release. And even when they took him out of prison to take him to the airport, they told him that they were bringing him to his execution. And Nasha Adriana, and they went to her apartment, cleaned everything, books, furniture, left her with 2 pens. They came to the US with 1 plastic bag. And a lot of people think too, oh, you get political asylum and life was great, right? No, he came to the US and he was working as a construction worker to make his living, right? And little by little paid $6,300 for Holy Cross in Falls Church that was falling apart, and started rebuilding that, little by little. So we're going to have a little bit of an intermission in here too, because even when I got to meet him, and one of the things that I told him, I look, oh yeah, and these icons, they're weird. I was used to the Renaissance. How we depict, Jesus blonde with the blue eyes, right? And all the cherubims that had nothing to do with what we see, in the turf of the cherubims. And I've learned so much, and I absolutely love, the iconography and things like this. Is absolutely profound. But I got to learn a lot from that time. And the second clip that I'm going to play to you was actually inspired also by some of the words that Father did. And I want to speak a little bit about his experience in the US, because we hear a lot about the prison, etc. But let me tell you the types of messages that he used to send. And I come in, I was not Orthodox yet, but I was spending a lot of time with him, and talking to him after work, coming from work and stopping by church. He was always there. And I said, you know what, Father George, this church is too small. You need something big. Now I know about icons. I looked on the web and I got some books too. And you need something really, really big. And I told him, and by the way, I just got recruited. We're gonna, my team is gonna go to, to Iraq. There are a couple of things that are very bad in there, and it's gonna be a lot of money. And I'll tell you, I'll give you half of everything that I'm gonna make, so we can get a fund going. And here I am, Mike. And he looked at me very calmly, and he said, Rosana. He said, I was not Maria then. He said, Rosana, church of walls is very important. The struggling community is very important, because it brings us together. And when one side is weak, even when they are not praying directly for you, they hold you accountable. And those indirect prayers, we are all connected. There is an energy, a divine energy, that strengthens us, even when the community is not praying directly for you. He said, it's very important. The walls, the church of walls are very important, but those walls collapse. He said, if you really, and then he went on, he said, and I hear that things are very dangerous in Iraq right now. If anything happens to you, are you ready? And I'm pausing here because that very seldom there was a question that somebody would come to me that I would not have an answer. This. And for the very first time, I gagged. I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean we're ready?" He said, "Yeah, it's all of us. We one day we're gonna close our eyes and we're gonna wake up in another place of existence." And that was like a very defining moment in my life. Then I started inquiring, what does it mean to be ready? What have I done that was actually meaningful? Yeah, working. We can do things that are, we can honor God. Make Him prosper, whatever it is. But was my intent there, or was I just letting life drive my agenda, and everybody else's agenda drive mine? And I will tell you, a very curious fact. Out of 16 people that actually left in that group of people that actually did go, 2 of them returned. And so it was a defining moment in my initial steps onto the orthodoxy. That's when I said, Father, I'm not ready, and I want to learn from you. What does this mean? So, let me play a second intermission in here, because I've already sort of summarizing, most of the other slides as well. I'll play the second intermission. Please pay attention to the words, because it was actually really based. Panahios from Greece, he has this production company, so let me give the credit to him. But it was inspired in that dialogue, and wrapping up what Father wrapped up the discussion with, he said, if you're really interested in learning what does it mean to be ready, and if you really want to build church, start building the church of God inside of your heart first. Then we're going to talk about walls. He literally refused money. And he said, what would have happened to me, in prison, if all that I had was my belief in the church made out of walls and big churches? He said, no, Maria, the true church of Christ is inside of our heart, where most times we keep Christ naked and starving. And we just reach out to him at our convenience, at our time, when we need him to serve us. So that to me was perhaps in my entire life, one of the most defining moments. So please entertain me a little bit with one clip.